week is a taker, but it is not the last word. That is the specific promise of the Saturday morning that begins after the week that took. The week took energy. It took patience. It took the clarity that existed before 5 days of accumulated demands softened its edges. It took the presence that was available on Monday and that the week drew from until the drawing had left the reserves lower than the drawing started. The week took. That is what weeks do. They require from the person living them, and the person living them gives what is required. And by Friday, the accounting shows the giving was real because the receiving shows the having given. But the taker is not the owner. What the week took does not belong to the week. The energy, the patience, the clarity, the presence, none of those things were the week's to keep permanently. They were given temporarily in the service of what the week required. And the God who restores does not wait for a better season to restore them. He restores on Saturdays, in the specific, quiet, less demanded architecture of a morning that arrived on the other side of the taking. This is Saturday, May 9th, the Saturday after the week that took. And before this day has become another container for what the week left undone, before the open architecture of a May Saturday has been filled by whatever arrives first, you came here to receive what the week is not capable of giving back on its own. The restoration that does not come from rest alone, or from recreation alone, or from the passage of time alone. The restoration that comes from the specific, personal, active presence of the God who knows exactly what was taken and who provides exactly what the restoring requires. His word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse 3, that he restores my soul. Not eventually, not under optimal conditions. He restores my soul. Active, present tense. The shepherd does not observe the depletion and recommend more rest. He restores. The restoring is his action. The receiving is the sheep's. And what the sheep receives from the shepherd's restoring is not the previous level. It is what the shepherd designed the sheep to carry, which is always more than the depleted version the demanding week produced. Before we enter this prayer, write in the comments right now, Lord, restore what this week took from me. I come to the shepherd because only he can give back what the week cannot. Write it as the going to the right source, not to the weekend's activities, not to the rest alone, to the shepherd who restores. Like this video as an act of choosing the restoration over the recovery that goes only as deep as the surface. Subscribe to this channel so we can begin every morning together, especially the Saturdays when the week's taking needs to meet the shepherd's restoring before the weekend is entirely underway. And share this prayer with someone whose Saturday is beginning from inside the taking, not with advice about recovery, with the shepherd who restores. Now let us come to the shepherd who gives back what the week cannot. Lord my God and my Father, I come before you on this Saturday morning with the full inventory of what the week took, not to present you with information you do not have, to do the act of honest accounting that the restoration requires, to name specifically what was taken so that the restoring is specific to what was given. The week took my energy, the specific, active, available energy that was present on Monday and that was given genuinely and fully to the days that required it. The energy for the difficult conversations and the sustained work and the showing up that was not optional. All of that was given, and the giving was real. The week took my patience. The reserves of patience that were available at the beginning and that were drawn from repeatedly through the people and the situations and the moments that required extension. The patience that was given even when the giving was costly, even when what remained was less than the requirement. The week took my perspective. The wider view that was available before the week's accumulation narrowed the horizon. The capacity to see the difficulty in its proper proportion before the accumulation made the proportions difficult to maintain. The perspective that held the temporary things as temporary and the eternal things as eternal and that the week's sustained press gradually softened into the lens of the immediately demanding. I bring the full accounting to you, Lord. These specific things, in the specific quantities the week took them, and I receive the restoring that only you provide. Your word declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 1, that God says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine, by name." That is the quality of the restoration, not a generic top-up of generic reserves. The specific, named, known restoration of the specific, named, known person who gave what the week required and who is now before the one who calls them by name and gives back what the named person specifically needs. Father, I want to pray about what the restoration specifically looks like in the three things that were named. The restoration of the energy is not a return to Monday's level. It is something better. The energy that is restored by God is not the recycled version of what was there before. It is renewed. The word in Isaiah 40, the soaring on wings like eagles, the running without weariness, the walking without faintness, is not the description of a person who was simply refueled. It is the description of a person who received something qualitatively different from what the week had been running on. The renewed energy has a quality that the beginning energy did not have. Because the renewal comes from contact with the source of all energy rather than from the rest that merely pauses the spending. Your word declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31, that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. Soar. The restored energy is not adequate for the next week's demands. It is for soaring, for the kind of living that exceeds what mere recovery would provide. Receive the soaring today, Lord. The energy that was not only returned, but renewed into something more capable of what the coming week will require. Lord, restore what this week took from me. I come to the shepherd because only he can give back what the week cannot. The restoration of the patience is more intimate than the energy, because patience is drawn from the deepest resources, from the love that holds even when the held is difficult, from the faithfulness that continues even when continuing costs more than beginning did, from the specific, daily, unremarkable practice of extending to the people in the week what the people in the week sometimes did not make easy to extend. That patience, drawn from the deepest places, is restored at the deepest level. God restores patience not by producing a resolved version of the difficult relationship, by refilling the reservoir that the relationship drew from. The difficult person is still going to be present next week. The demanding situation is still going to require patience that the situation does not generate on its own. What changes through the restoration is not the external demand, the internal supply. The reservoir of patience that the week drew from is being refilled in this Saturday morning prayer by the God who is himself the source of the patience the difficult people in the week required. Your word declares in the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 22 through 23, that because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. The compassions are new, not the residue of Monday's compassion extended, new, specific to this Saturday, specific to what the week took, available in exactly the amount the week removed and exactly the quality the next week will require. And I want to name something about the restoration of patience that the Saturday uniquely enables. During the week, there is no space to restore patience, because the patience is being drawn from in every waking hour. The difficult person is present. The demanding situation is active. The patience is being spent at the rate it can barely be produced. There is no gap in the demand for the restoration to occur. Saturday creates the gap. The difficult person is absent today. The demanding situation is paused, and in the gap, the shepherd can do what the week never allowed him to do, because the week never paused long enough to permit it. He can restore what was being spent faster than it was being renewed. He can refill the patience reservoir in the unhurried hours of a Saturday morning before the next week starts drawing from it again. Your word declares in the book of Romans, chapter 5, verses 3 through 4, that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. The patience drawn from by the difficult week is not only spent, it is being formed into something. The perseverance that endured the week's demanding people and difficult situations is building the character that produces hope. The patience was not only taken, it was used to build something that the easy week could not have built. And the Saturday restoration refills what was used in the building, while the building itself remains. The restoration of the perspective is perhaps the most needed of the three, because the person who has lost the wider view is navigating from the narrowed one without knowing the navigating has been narrowed. The things that are temporary feel permanent. The things that are reversible feel fixed. The things that matter most seem less significant than the things that were most immediately demanding. And the Saturday that does not restore the perspective sends the person into Sunday with the week's narrowed view as the operating lens for the next week's beginning. God restores perspective by being what He is, by being the God whose view is not narrowed by the week's demands, by offering the wider frame from the position of the one who holds both the temporary and the eternal simultaneously, and who invites the person whose view was narrowed by the week to receive the wider view that was always available and that the week was temporarily blocking. Your word declares in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 18, that we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. The eternal things are still there. The week's temporary things were temporarily louder, and the Saturday morning prayer that receives the restoration of perspective from the one who never lost the wider view sends the person into the weekend with their eyes fixed back on what is unseen and eternal. And Lord, the perspective that is most needed this Saturday is not only the wider view of the eternal, it is the accurate view of the week itself. Because the narrowed perspective does not only make the difficulties look larger than they are, it also makes the graces look smaller. The conversation that unexpectedly went well on Tuesday appears minor from inside the Friday depletion. The provision that arrived before the anxiety about it reached full volume seems like routine from inside the perspective that has been narrowed by the week's accumulation. The moment of genuine connection in the middle of the difficult day is less visible from the depleted perspective than it was from inside it. The restored perspective sees both the costs and the graces accurately, not minimizing the costs, not exaggerating the graces, seeing the week as it actually was, which includes evidence of faithfulness that the narrowed view was too depleted to collect. Lord, restore what this week took from me. I come to the shepherd because only he can give back what the weak cannot. Lord, I want to pray now about the quality of the Saturday that the restoration produces. It is different from the Saturday that simply follows the week without the restoration. The restored person receives the Saturday differently. They are more present to what the day offers, more capable of receiving the ordinary graces that the depleted person moves past without collecting, more available to the people who share the day, more genuinely glad in the day the Lord made rather than merely relieved that the week is over. The restored Saturday person is not trying to earn the rest by having sufficient margin in the to-do list. They are receiving it as what it was designed to be, the day that belongs to a different rhythm, the day that was made for the person rather than the person for the day. And the restoration that began in this morning prayer continues through the day's hours as the person moves through the Saturday from the restored position rather than the depleted one. There is a specific image in the book of Psalms, chapter 23, that belongs to the restored Saturday. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. The imagery is deliberate. The lying down in green pastures is not the collapsing exhausted onto whatever surface is available. It is the lying down in the place the shepherd prepared, in the good place, the right place, the place that is not just restful, but restorative, where the quality of the environment itself participates in the restoration. This Saturday morning is that place, the green pasture, the quiet waters, the environment that the shepherd prepared for the person who came here before the day's other options presented themselves. And the lying down is the receiving of what the shepherd prepared, not the generating of rest through sufficient recuperation, the receiving of the specific restorative environment that the shepherd led the depleted sheep into, because only the shepherd knew where the green pasture was. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 4, to delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Delight yourself. The delight is not performed. It is the natural response of the person who has come to the green pasture and found that the shepherd was already there and that what was prepared was exactly what was needed. The delight is the restoration producing its natural fruit in the person who received it. And I want to ask for something about the delight that is specific to the restored Saturday. Not only the delight in the Lord, the delight in the ordinary things the restored person can now actually receive. The quality of light through the May morning window that the depleted person moved past without noticing. The sound of the household waking in the Saturday's unhurried architecture that the tense week never had space for. The person at the breakfast table who is genuinely interesting and with whom the restored interior can now be genuinely curious. The small, specific, unrepeatable graces of this particular May Saturday that are available only to the person whose interior is open enough to receive them. The depleted person moves through Saturday's ordinary gifts without collecting them. The restored person collects them. And the collection of ordinary graces on a Saturday is itself a form of the restoration. The receiving participates in the restoring. Each small grace received deepens the capacity for the next one. And the Saturday that is received well by a person who came to the shepherd first is a day of accumulating ordinary gifts that no amount of strategic recovery could have produced. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 118, verse 24, that this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This day, this specific May Saturday, made by the Lord, containing what the Lord prepared for the person who arrived here first, before the day set its own agenda. Be glad in it, genuinely, in the actual day, with its actual ordinary gifts and its actual quiet waters and its actual green pasture of an unhurried morning that the shepherd led the depleted sheep into. Lord, restore what this week took from me. I come to the shepherd because only he can give back what the weak cannot. Father, as this prayer closes, I want to receive something about what the restored person carries into Sunday. The restored Saturday person arrives at Sunday differently from the depleted Saturday person. The Sunday prayer finds a more open interior. The preparation for the next week happens from a position that has actually been restored, rather than a position that is still depleted from the previous one. The chain of grace from the Saturday restoration to the Sunday preparation to the Monday beginning is intact, rather than interrupted by a Saturday that did not receive what the shepherd had prepared. And the restored Sunday person begins the next week differently from the Sunday person who arrived at Sunday, still carrying the previous week's unrestored depletion. They begin from what was genuinely given back, rather than from what the previous week's taking left behind. The Monday that follows the restored Saturday is a different Monday, not because the new week will be easier, because the person entering it received the restoration that was available rather than simply transitioning from one week's depletion to the next week's demands. Your word declares in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25, that God says, "I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten." Repay, not just restore to the prior level, repay for what was taken, for what was consumed, for what the demanding seasons have drawn from without giving back. The restoration God provides is not proportionate only to this week's taking. It is the larger restoration of the God who repays what was taken in every season that took more than it returned. Receive that larger restoration today, Lord. Not only what this week took, the accumulated taking of every week that drew from the reserves without full return, the repaying of years. The restoration of the God whose capacity to restore is not limited to what one Saturday can provide, but who begins the repaying whenever the person comes to the shepherd and receives what the shepherd has prepared. That restoration begins here. On this May Saturday, in the green pasture the shepherd prepared. And I want to name something about what the person who received the Joel repaying carries into the coming weeks. They carry a different relationship to the taking, not immunity to it. A different relationship. The person who has been restored by God knows something about the taking that the person who was never restored does not know. They know it is not the last word, that the weak may take, but the shepherd gives back. That the depletion is real and temporary, and not the condition the person was designed to live in permanently. That there is a source of restoration that is not depleted by the needing of it. That knowing changes the quality of the giving during the weeks that take. The person who knows the restoration is coming can give more freely during the taking. The patience extended in the difficult Tuesday is extended by the person who knows that the Tuesday taking will be met by the Saturday restoring. The presence given in the demanding Friday is given by the person who knows that Friday's depletion is not the permanent condition. The giving during the week is shaped by the knowing about the restoration at the end of it. Your word declares in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 8 that God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. All that you need for the abounding. The restoration provides not just sufficiency, but abundance. Not just enough to get through the next week, but enough to abound in the good work the next week requires. The shepherd who restores does not top up to the prior level. He restores into the abundance from which the abounding flows, beside the quiet waters, with the one who restores the soul, not periodically but persistently, who was here before the prayer began and will be here when the prayer ends, who takes what was taken from the person and gives back what only he can give. Lord, restore what this week took from me. I come to the shepherd because only he can give back what the weak cannot. That is the declaration this Saturday begins from. The taking is named. The shepherd is here. The restoration is underway. And the day that opens on the other side of this prayer is received by a person who came to the right source. Not to the activities or the rest or the passage of time alone. To the shepherd who restores. Who was already in the green pasture when the depleted sheep arrived. Who has what the weak cannot give back. And who gives it. To everyone who prayed with me this morning, go back to the comments and write it one final time. Lord, restore what this week took from me. I come to the shepherd because only he can give back what the weak cannot. And then let the Saturday be what the shepherd prepared it to be. Receive what is offered. Lie down in the green pasture. Stay in the quiet waters long enough for the restoration to be received rather than observed. Subscribe to this channel and come back tomorrow morning. We are here every day, receiving what the shepherd prepared for the day. Share this prayer with someone whose Saturday is beginning from inside the week's taking. Not someone who needs to be told what the week cost. Someone who needs the shepherd who knows and restores. May the Lord restore specifically and completely what this week took from you. May the energy be renewed beyond the Monday level into the soaring level. May the patience be refilled from the source that does not run on the same reserves the week was drawing from. May the perspective be returned to the wider frame that the week's temporary demands were temporarily blocking. And may this Saturday be the green pasture beside the quiet waters that the shepherd prepared for exactly this depleted person on exactly this May morning. In Jesus' name, amen.